Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a moment to consider the curious figure of a man with no friends. Alone, by choice or circumstance, he moves through the world without the web of connection that most of us cling to. But what does it mean to be alone? To truly be without friends? Is it a curse? Or perhaps, as odd as it might seem, could it be an opportunity? You see, we live in a world where social bonds are prized, where friendships are supposed to validate us. We imagine friends as mirrors, reflecting who we are back to ourselves, confirming our existence and value. But what happens when we strip all that away? When no one is there to nod along, to laugh at our jokes, or to share in our victories? Are we still ourselves, or do we begin to disappear? The man with no friends might discover something that the rest of us, tangled in our social lives, may never know. Without the noise of opinions, expectations, and obligations, he is free to confront the raw, unfiltered nature of his own being, and to sit in silence with himself. And that, my friends, is not an easy task. Most of us seek the company of others because we are running from boredom, from our insecurities, from the questions that arise when we are left alone. Aloneness, then, can be like a mirror, too. But it doesn't show us the familiar faces of friends or family. It shows us our innermost thoughts, our fears, and the fragments of ourselves that we've hidden from view. This mirror doesn't flatter, it exposes. It's uncomfortable. The man with no friends, whether he chose it or not, faces this truth every day. He is forced to accept himself as he is, without the comfort of others to mask his flaws or amplify his strengths. And yet, perhaps there's something deeply liberating about this. A person who becomes his own friend discovers a companionship that is not dependent on outside approval. He no longer lives in fear of judgment or loneliness because he has learned to find comfort within. He can sit under the sky without anyone beside him and feel at peace. But let's not romanticize this too much. Solitude can be harsh. To live without friends is to live without an audience. There's no applause, no feedback, no validation. But perhaps the man who finds himself alone also finds a chance to see life as it truly is, without the filters we create in the company of others. You see, in solitude there is a chance to break the illusion of separation, to realize that we are never truly isolated. When the chatter of companionship fades, we start to feel a part of something much larger than individual friendships. We realize we're part of the pulse of life itself, woven into the same fabric as the trees, the rivers, and the stars. Solitude, then, is not emptiness, it is space. Space to breathe, to think, to feel deeply, and to understand ourselves in relation to the entire universe. So a man with no friends may be alone, but he is not necessarily lonely. He has no need to grasp at others to complete him, because he has learned to be whole. This solitude teaches him that real companionship is not in the presence of others, but in the awareness of life, of the vast and boundless mystery that surrounds us all. Solitude is a rare state in today's world, one that few people seek out or embrace. For many, being alone is uncomfortable, a feeling they rush to escape. But solitude, particularly for the individual who finds themselves without close friends, offers a unique and valuable experience. When all the external noise is stripped away, and no one is there to act as a mirror reflecting back our social identity, we are left with nothing but ourselves. This emptiness can be startling, even painful at first, but it's also revealing. In solitude, we encounter a mirror that doesn't show our outward appearance or project back society's expectations. Instead, it presents us with the essence of who we truly are. With no friends around to affirm or criticize us, the familiar support and feedback loops fall silent. We are left with a blank space, one in which the mind begins to uncover its own patterns and tendencies. Solitude is an environment where the mind no longer dances to the tunes of others' opinions, where it doesn't adjust itself to fit neatly into a role or image. In this quiet space, our thoughts, fears, and desires float to the surface unadorned. Without an audience, there is no need to play a part, to smile through discomfort, or to agree for the sake of peace. We are faced with the full force of who we are, our strengths and our flaws without filters, For many people, social interactions serve as a way to define themselves. When they make a friend laugh, they feel validated. When they receive a compliment, they gain confidence. But when these reinforcements are gone, the ego begins to lose its usual support system, and a kind of vulnerability sets in. This is often the point at which people struggle, feeling uncomfortable or inadequate without the bolstering effect of friendship. Yet this vulnerability is a chance to recognize that we may not actually know ourselves as well as we thought. Solitude pulls back the veil and shows us the unvarnished truth. The realization that we are alone with our thoughts can initially be a daunting experience. Without others to distract us, our minds wander to places we might prefer to avoid. In solitude, we may confront our fears and insecurities, the ambitions we haven't pursued, the traits we don't like about ourselves. In social circles, these thoughts are often swept under the rug or softened by reassuring words from friends. But in solitude, we confront them head-on. It is in this headspace, where there is nowhere to hide, that a kind of clarity begins to emerge. Solitude reveals our habits, both mental and emotional. Perhaps we notice a tendency to dwell on past mistakes, or to imagine scenarios of future success or failure. These patterns become apparent, and we realize that they have been a part of us all along, guiding our decisions and shaping our self-image. In solitude, we see these patterns more vividly, and we have an opportunity to question them. Are these recurring thoughts helpful? Are they truly ours, or are they inherited beliefs and assumptions that we've never challenged? This process, unsettling as it may be, gives us the chance to become more conscious of our mental landscape and more deliberate in our choices. At the same time, solitude can reveal aspects of ourselves that we might never have encountered in the company of others. Many people find that when they are alone, they have a creative spark, a deep curiosity, or a contemplative side that was previously dormant. These parts of ourselves often emerge only when the external world quiets down. Without the pressures to conform or impress, we feel free to explore new interests and ideas. We might begin to write, to draw, to ponder the mysteries of life. In solitude, the mind has room to wander without restriction, and we may find ourselves drawn to pursuits or thoughts that we had never considered before. This solitary exploration often leads to self-acceptance. When we see ourselves, warts and all, without anyone else's judgment or influence, we begin to understand who we are. Over time, the initial discomfort of solitude transforms into a kind of peaceful acceptance. We come to terms with our quirks, our fears, and our unfulfilled dreams. The parts of ourselves we once tried to hide become familiar companions. In solitude, we learn to accept ourselves as we are, without the need for approval or praise. We see that our worth is intrinsic and doesn't rely on external validation. The beauty of solitude as a mirror lies in its honesty. It doesn't flatter or shield us from uncomfortable truths. Instead, it encourages us to engage with them fully. While friends may be mirrors reflecting back our social selves, solitude reflects the essence of who we are beyond those roles. It invites us to recognize that we are multifaceted beings, more complex than any one social interaction or friendship could reveal. And in that space, as we come to know ourselves more deeply, we find the foundation for a lasting inner peace. In a world so deeply tied to connections, relationships, and social networks, it's easy to equate our worth with the number of people in our lives who validate us. Friends, family, colleagues all play a role in affirming who we are and reminding us of our value. Yet there is a form of wholeness that exists independent of anyone else, a completeness that emerges from within, untouched by others' perceptions or judgments. This inner wholeness is a state of being in which a person feels self-sufficient, at peace with themselves, and free from the need for constant validation. It is not the result of arrogance or self-centeredness, but rather a quiet and deeply rooted acceptance of oneself as they are. In the search for inner wholeness, a person must first learn to embrace solitude. Alone, without the social mirrors that friends or loved ones provide, they begin to understand their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors in a new way. It's an opportunity to observe oneself without the distraction of trying to fit into a role or meet someone else's expectations. At first, this self-confrontation can be challenging. Many people find it uncomfortable to be alone with their thoughts. They might feel restless, anxious, or even incomplete. This discomfort is a sign of just how much they've relied on others to fill the gaps in their sense of self. But slowly, with patience, solitude teaches them to befriend themselves. They come to realize that their own company is enough, and that they do not need to be defined by their relationships or accomplishments. Inner wholeness is born when a person can sit in silence and feel at ease, when they no longer feel the need to reach outward for fulfillment. They discover a richness within, a sense of inner peace that remains steady even when life around them is uncertain. This process of cultivating inner wholeness often reveals surprising insights. Without the constant chatter and influence of others, a person can tune into their true desires, beliefs, and values. They come to understand what really matters to them, not what society, family, or friends expect, but what genuinely resonates with their own spirit. They may realize that some of their pursuits or ambitions were never really their own. They were just playing along with a script that had been handed to them. Inner wholeness allows a person to break free from these external influences and to live according to their own values and ideals. This self-directed path, in turn, brings a sense of satisfaction that is far deeper than any applause or approval from others could provide. The journey to inner wholeness also involves recognizing and accepting one's imperfections. In relationships, we often seek reassurance about our flaws. We look to others to tell us that we're still lovable, despite our shortcomings. But when we look within for that reassurance, we find a different kind of acceptance. We begin to see that our flaws are simply part of who we are. Rather than rejecting or hiding them, we learn to embrace them, understanding that they are woven into the fabric of our identity. This doesn't mean we stop striving to improve ourselves, but it does mean that our self-worth is no longer conditional. We no longer think I'll be worthy when, but instead recognize that we are already enough. This unconditional self-acceptance fosters resilience. When people are rooted in their own wholeness, they are less affected by the opinions and judgments of others. Rejections, criticisms, and disappointments lose their sting because they don't define us anymore. We recognize that external circumstances are transient. They come and go like waves on the surface, but our sense of self is anchored deep below. This inner stability allows us to remain calm and centered in the face of life's challenges. Rather than being swayed by every opinion, we can hold steady, knowing who we are and what we stand for. Inner wholeness also brings a profound sense of freedom. Without the need to seek approval, we are liberated to express ourselves authentically. We no longer feel pressured to conform or to mold ourselves into something we're not. Instead, we feel a freedom to be genuine, to act and speak from a place of truth. This authenticity enriches our relationships too, as it allows us to engage with others without the weight of expectations. We no longer need them to complete us. We simply enjoy their company, free to give and receive without any strings attached. In a world that often tells us we are incomplete on our own, inner wholeness is a revolutionary idea. It is a reminder that fulfillment doesn't come from accumulating friends, accolades, or accomplishments, but from nurturing a relationship with oneself. This wholeness doesn't mean we don't value others or that we stop engaging in relationships. Instead, it means we approach these connections from a place of abundance rather than need. We no longer enter relationships to fill a void, but to share our fullness with others. Ultimately, inner wholeness is an ongoing journey. It requires continuous self-reflection and a willingness to grow. There will be moments of doubt, times when we feel vulnerable or incomplete. But each step in this journey strengthens our sense of self, deepens our peace, and enriches our lives. It's a path that leads to an enduring contentment, a quiet joy that comes from knowing that we are, and always have been, enough just as we are. To feel a connection with the universe is a profound experience, one that goes beyond any specific relationship, belief, or worldly attachment. It's a sense of belonging not to a group, community, or even a culture, but to the entire fabric of existence itself. For many, this feeling arises in moments of solitude or stillness, when the busyness of everyday life falls away and they are left to witness the vastness of the natural world. In such moments, people begin to see themselves as a small, yet integral part of something infinitely larger, a universe that is as mysterious as it is beautiful. This connection to the universe often emerges as a realization of interconnectedness, a sense that all things, seen and unseen, are linked. Imagine looking up at a night sky filled with stars, feeling the quiet immensity of space, and knowing that each star is part of a network of galaxies, planets, and cosmic forces. It's humbling, but it's also comforting. There is a profound peace in realizing that we are part of this grand, intricate system. Every particle in our bodies, every atom of matter, has been recycled over billions of years, shared and reshaped by the universe itself. The carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen that make up our very cells were forged in the hearts of ancient stars. In this way, we are not merely in the universe, we are the universe made conscious and aware of itself. Understanding this connection invites us to see our lives through a different lens. When we recognize ourselves as part of the larger cosmic whole, we become more aware of how our actions, thoughts, and energies influence not just our immediate surroundings, but the broader world. Every choice we make sends ripples through this interconnected web. This awareness fosters a sense of responsibility, not because we are compelled to act out of duty, but because we genuinely feel that what we do to others, we do to ourselves. This is the root of compassion, a recognition that every living being shares the same universal essence. This connection to the universe also shifts our understanding of time. In our daily lives, we often feel bound by the clock, by deadlines, and by the passage of days and years. But when we think about ourselves in the context of the cosmos, time takes on a different meaning. We become aware of geological time, of cosmic time, of cycles that span millions, even billions of years. Our lives, though fleeting, are part of these vast cycles of creation, destruction, and rebirth. This perspective can be deeply liberating. The anxieties, worries, and minor frustrations that consume us start to lose their power, fading in significance when we realize that we are part of something so vast and enduring. In these moments of connection, there is often a sense of oneness, a feeling that all separation between self and other is an illusion. We come to see that the same life force animates us all. Whether it's a tree, an animal, or a distant star, we are all expressions of the same energy, the same mystery of existence. This unity dissolves boundaries, making us more open to empathy, understanding, and love. We see that just as we are part of the universe is also part of us. Its intelligence, beauty, and order are reflected within, if only we take the time to look. Such a cosmic connection can also ease the fear of death. Death, from a universal perspective, is not an end, but a transformation, a return to the source. Just as stars live, die, and spread their elements across space, so do we contribute our energy back to the universe when we pass. Understanding this continuity gives our lives a sense of meaning that transcends personal achievements or individual legacies. We become comfortable with the idea that, like everything in the universe, we are part of a cycle, a rhythm that has no beginning or end, only changes in form. Our connection with the universe also instills a sense of gratitude. As we recognize ourselves as part of this vast, intricate tapestry, we become aware of the extraordinary circumstances that have made life possible. The precise balance of elements, the exact conditions that allowed Earth to flourish, and the countless moments that have led to our individual existence, all of this seems almost miraculous. This gratitude often manifests as a desire to live more fully, to cherish each moment as a unique, fleeting expression of cosmic energy. Living with this awareness reshapes how we approach life. We become more present, more attuned to the beauty around us, and more willing to embrace change. When we feel connected to the universe, life becomes an unfolding mystery, one we participate in rather than control. This openness brings a deep joy as we realize that we are not separate or isolated, but part of a continuous dance of creation. In this state, we no longer feel the need to define ourselves strictly by roles or identities. Instead, we simply are, existing in harmony with all that is. This connection with the universe is not a static achievement, but a living, breathing relationship that deepens as we grow. The more we listen to it, the more we let go of the ego's need to control and categorize, and the more expansive our lives become. We learn to trust the flow of life, to move with it rather than against it, embracing both the joys and the challenges as part of the same vast experience. And in doing so, we feel a profound peace, a quiet contentment that arises not from external circumstances, but from the knowledge that we are, and always have been, an essential part of the universe's unfolding story.